right, welcome back. Now we're joined by Iggy Ostanin, investigative journalist with Bellingcat. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem, thank you.
You, sir, have a keen eye for images. How have you been using that when it comes to Russia?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working with Bellingcat for a while, and, I've just really started doing the kind of open source research that, has really taken off throughout the Ukrainian conflict. And, specifically, one thing I've, looked at a lot is obviously the, MH17 tragedy, and, Bellingcat has investigated that quite a bit. And, so yes, but I've definitely, I've looked at a lot of images.
I mean, and that's what the interesting thing is, because it's what you guys are all about is taking what is already there, what exists on social media, Instagram, Vkontakte, Facebook, and tracking things and finding out if it's there and trying to make sure if it's true or not. And to give people an idea, if not, maybe not everyone knows the work, though certainly a lot of people do. We have the first image of one of these Buk missile launchers. There we go.
Yep.
Look over there. So, I mean, this was interesting because there were Buk missile launchers. There's been more and more evidence linking those missiles to Malaysian Airlines flight MH17 being brought down. Then we had, the Russian government spokesperson saying that they didn't even have those particular launchers anymore. And what is this we're looking at? What is this image of Putin? What is he standing in front of?
Yeah, so he's basically, what he's doing, he's standing in front of missiles that Almaz-Altai claimed that the Russian military doesn't use. And, this quite visually demonstrates the fact that they're wrong. They've basically tried to say that these missiles are only in use in the Ukrainian forces. Well, they aren't. And this isn't the only image that's been presented to contradict this evidence from Almaz-Altai. There's quite a few. It really shows the fact that, they've really, they were trying to distance Russia from what had happened, and, they failed.
When you have an image for that. And to give another idea of that, we have another image that wants to pull up, because you're not just about, putting these own arguments together, it's holding other people accountable, that then when they present an image, that's something you break down. And so we have this other image here. What are we looking at there?
Yeah, so it's basically, what we did is we looked at some of the imagery presented by the Russian Ministry of Defense, and we've, again, presented evidence showing that, actually what they've done is they've, essentially just fabricated evidence. And we've looked at open source information. We've looked at satellite imagery that, people can find for themselves. And we've just demonstrated the fact that, that what they've presented wasn't actually, real. It wasn't actually of the time and date that they've claimed it to be. And again, we've also looked at the kind of the metadata behind that. We've looked at air level analysis, as well as open source information. So we've really looked at a lot of different methods to try and understand really what these images represented. And I think if you read our report, especially if you read it in full, you'll be able to see multiple reasons for why you can tell that these images were faked.
Yeah, and what was the response to that most recent report?
I think, there's been quite a few attacks on Bellingcat as a result of it, and I think a lot of these were really hinged on, taking evidence out of context, particularly things like air level analysis. So, bits would get taken out of the report that Bellingcat did, and then, they would get attacked, and, the actual evidence wouldn't get a chance, and especially all the comprehensive evidence that we've put together. So, there's actually quite a lot of different methodologies being used, and quite a lot of evidence that's, really quite irrefutable when put together. And naturally, that's not something that you see when you see the work of our critics.
And Iggy, there is always, I think, you have a lot of people, attacking your webpage or something, but we want to know more about the nature of a Bellingcat. What is that? Are you like volunteers, journalists? Why you are there? Because the people say, like, why are these guys sitting and doing everything to, to criticize the Russian government? Who are they paid for?
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of the view that some of our critics take, and it's completely wrong, because myself included, we're basically a team of volunteers. He's really well known, really respected. He was the founder of Bellingcat, and we were quite inspired by the work that he did to do with Syria and the Middle East in general. And so, so we don't actually get paid for this. We really, like for example, I was living in the Netherlands at the time when MH17 was shot down. I felt really like I wanted to do something about this. We have other contributors from Netherlands as well. We have, other people who just really wanted to start, investigating and, helping out with this.
I mean, as with anything, there's also some criticism, and maybe Natalia, if you could pull it up, there's an article in the Spiegel, in this German paper, where it seems in particular a lot of the criticism of Bellingcat comes from people who consider themselves professionals, who have kind of university degrees in these fields, and are kind of critical of that. Now, part of the criticism in that article, I guess, and probably everyone else knows these names better than me, but there's a Dr. Neil Kravitz, who I guess you use some of his technology, and one of the arguments why he was critical of the report is he was saying, when you don't have access to the original source data, that every copy of that, I guess it corrodes, it becomes less reliable. So when you're trying to analyze based on that, it becomes harder and harder. Obviously, with these images put out by the Russian Ministry of Defense, the original material wasn't available. So, I mean, what is your response to that? Is it still possible to analyze that information and get reliable results?
I think the key thing is, with our report, I think a lot of our critics don't tend to actually read all of our reports and look at all the evidence. And, so for example, naturally, no method of verification is going to be 100% foolproof, and we've never claimed that. But, it's really about using all the verification methods that are available. So, Bellingcat has never just used sort of one methodology and said, believe us. We've used a variety of sources, and one thing that we're doing at the moment is we're basically acquiring satellite imagery, concerning when the aircraft was shot down, and specifically looking at book movements in relation to what the Russian MOD claimed that there had been. So that will settle once and for all. Basically, when we actually we can start looking at the actual imagery, and But again, I have to stress the fact that there's a lot of arguments that we've put out that no one's tried to disprove, because I think they're quite strong.
After the Russian Defense Ministry had pulled their report, you kind of had debunked this report, but it's interesting that they have answered, that they reacted and started to do something more or less similar to what the Bellingcat had been doing. How the situation changed within this month? You were following a lot of social networks of the Russian soldiers, people like that. So probably there are people who had started to take care about that. Did things happen? Are things more closed? How is it now? Is something changing?
I think definitely things are changing. Now it's less and less, masked, the kind of evidence that you come across. I used to be able to find definitely more profiles of soldiers and separatists who would post, loads of images. I think now people are a bit more cautious. I think it's partly to do with the work that we've done in the past, and the work that other open source kind of citizen journalists have done as well. I think it's definitely, for example, one post I found by one Russian soldier in a particular unit was he said that, somebody posted a video of some of their vehicles, and he was saying that the FSB were there very, very quickly. And I think that's, that really reflects something that is happening. You've had the ban on the use of smartphones in the Russian army, and now you're having a big crackdown on maybe what people can do in relation to information on the units. And I think it's natural that also, the MOD in general is going to start caring a lot more about this kind of evidence, because naturally, we've debunked a lot of their claims. And we've presented a lot of evidence that is very uncomfortable for them.
When it's fast and it's visual, which is what really makes it effective, because other things are slower, require a lot of analysis, and this lends itself very well towards Twitter, towards social media. Obviously, there's the report, but those things can spread quite quickly. But, people are always cynical. You said in the past that one of the reactions is you publish a report, and then a lot of those accounts get closed, or things get deleted, things get pulled down. There's also a lot of kind of troll attacks, a lot of propaganda. So what are the safeguards you guys have in place to try and limit the being influenced by things that are fake, or to prove after things have been shut down that these were real sources?
Naturally. A lot of the things that we stress is verification. So we don't just find a video or an image by somebody and take their word for it. And if they said this image was taken in Stary Oskol in Russia, we don't go, okay, we believe you. We try and prove or disprove that by looking
So take that example. How can you prove to me or prove to someone that that video is from Studiosko, for example?
Right, so what we'll do is, obviously, we'll look at the profile that posted it. Is it the real profile? Do they have a history of posts? Do they actually, are they local in Studiosko? Who are their friends? And, then you look at other things like, what can you see in the image or video? Can you see any kind of features, any kind of bits of landscape, street signs, anything that you can pick up in open source information? Be it satellite view on Google Maps or be it Google Street View. And naturally, this is really important because you can have information just when someone claims something is somewhere, but then this is taken to the next level, basically saying, look, you can. Here are the coordinates, go and find for yourself. It actually had taken place there, and that's what we've done when we looked at, the origin of the separatist book in that particular work that we did.
And still, there are a lot of people who would say it's not enough evidence for something else, it's not enough evidence for something else. So what is the hardest for you to dig in? What the information you're missing? Maybe you would say, and it would be hidden, but we're still curious what we are looking for.
You mean sort of like what drives our...
Yeah, because there are still the information about, still there is a lot of speculation. On MH17 there was this long report, but about the movement of the troops and some other things. So
what
how
are the
far
biggest
it can
questions,
go?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know everything yet, and that's why we're keeping an eye out for new evidence that comes along, and be it from the MOD or be it from Almaz Altai, we'll look at it. We'll try and make sense of it, and see if that adds up to the existing evidence or not, and look at their methodology. So I think you're right in thinking that there's a lot of evidence that hasn't been uncovered yet, and I think that's why we've kept working for all this time. And I think that we can definitely expect more evidence to be found in the future as well.
Thanks a lot, Iggy.